Good morning and welcome to the AANMC webinar, Changing Careers. It's never too late to follow your passion to be an ND. Today with us we have Dr. Dennis Godby, who is a naturopathic physician in Sacramento, California, and he's going to share his own personal journey about how he chose to become a naturopathic physician after a totally different career as a religious studies teacher. And so one of the questions that we get so very often at the AANMC is, am I too old to be an ND? Or, gosh, I didn't study pre-med at all, and I really do want to do this. Is it too late for me? Can I do this? How do I do this? What are the steps I have to take? And so today's webinar is really to help you all who are maybe thinking about a career change or thinking about doing something different with your lives, or maybe there's one of your loved ones who's in a position like this, and to help you understand what are the steps, what's the process that we would take to really go about looking at a career change and following your own passion to be a naturopathic physician. So before we get started, I'm just going to cover a few tech things. So on your right-hand side, you should have a control panel. And in that control panel is a question box. So we're going to be taking all of the questions through the question box today. Attendees will be muted and in listen-only mode. So if you do have any questions or if there's anything technical, please just use that question box to communicate with us. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Godby. Dr. Dennis Godby is a licensed California naturopathic doctor, medical director, clinician, teacher, advocate, and leader in national and state organizations dedicated to improving healthcare. In addition to earning his naturopathic doctorate from the National University of Natural Medicine in Portland, he also holds a Master's of Arts in Theological Studies from the Mary Knowles School of Theology, a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Physiology and Nutrition from Oregon State. Dr. Godby serves on the board of the Institute for Natural Medicine, the PIMA and Public Affairs Committees of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, and the California Doctors Association, respectively, as well as chairing the Diversity Committee of the AANP. He's a busy guy. Dr. Godby is also the founder of The Run, Moving Natural Medicine Forward, a 3,000-mile run on foot across the USA for the dual purpose of promoting a healthier America and to increase the visibility of naturopathic medicine. He's also founded the Central America Emergency Run in 1984 and 85, running across the USA to promote a peaceful USA policy in Central America. His future plans include helping attain licensure for naturopathic doctors in all 50 states. And so with that, we will now bear with me as we turn over to Dr. Godby. And Dr. Godby, now I believe the screen is yours, and so is the microphone.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so I'm so thrilled to be here with you this morning on this webinar. I will begin my, let's see. I'll begin my story as a high school sophomore where I attended an all-male Catholic boarding school. Think of the Robin Williams movie, Dead Poets Society. At that time, I developed a very common knee condition in young people who are growing too quickly, which sidelined me for a year. Not only was I not able to exercise and play sports for 12 months, but also because I love food so much, I even developed a belly. Throughout that year, I became disappointed with my body and began plotting my comeback. So after receiving the doctor's okay to resume exercise, I began doing thousands and thousands and thousands of sit-ups and began to develop the six-pack abs, decades before it became fashionable. At that time in the 1970s, the six-pack meant only 6 beers and nothing else. To get in shape for football and other sports, I began running, but the odd thing that happened along the way was that because of the endorphins and how amazing I felt running became my new sport. At Oregon State University, I majored in a new discipline called exercise physiology and minored in nutrition, ran my first marathon in 1977, and conducted fun runs for the community. Before graduation from OSU, I decided to take running to a whole other level and use my passion to promote a healthy lifestyle. Because of the beauty of the Pacific Northwest and the Canadian Rockies, I decided to run from Corvallis, Oregon to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and attempt the longest run ever without a support team. So after 37 days, 1,420 miles on my legs, confronting bears and hypothermia and ravenous hunger and some loneliness, what emerged was a deeper faith, a heart full of gratitude and resiliency. Moving ahead a couple years to 1981, I began to hear about severe hunger in Africa. My conscience wouldn't allow me to sit idly by, accumulating possessions while human beings were starving to death. I was shocked and scandalized to learn that the major cause of most world hunger was not from a lack of food, but the shortage of socially just systems. The more I studied liberation theology from Latin America, the more it became clear that our country's policy was actually causing hunger and killing people. Eventually, I made my way to Ecuador and Nicaragua and decided that another run was necessary, this time across the USA, to protest U.S. policy in Central America and support Central American refugees. After that amazing 3,006-mile run across the USA, called the Central America Emergency Run, I completely immersed myself once again in Central America, visiting El Salvador, refugee camps in Honduras, as part of a religious delegation, taught English in Guatemala for about 6 months. To balance myself spiritually, I returned to the USA for graduate school in theology, where I received a fellowship. I went to live with Trappist monks in Ava, Missouri for several months and learned the art of meditation before starting medical school at Maryknoll School of Theology in New York for the next 2 years. During graduate school, it became clear to me that teaching high school religious studies could be an effective way to preach the good news about social justice and social activism, because teens know what it feels like to be a victim of discrimination. So the next 7 years, I taught in religious studies department for 2 Catholic high schools in San Francisco and Portland, where I taught social justice, morality, nonviolence. So it was like Cloud9 teaching social justice. I even began teaching about the advantages of a plant-based diet at that time and the morality of eating healthy to save the planet. At the age of 42, sensing that my strong social justice message may not always be appreciated by the district administration of those schools, I made one of the most painful decisions of my life to leave the joy of teaching social justice and nonviolence and begin to contemplate returning to school to become a naturopathic doctor. After learning of the profession just a year or two prior, as a mother of one of my students was becoming a naturopathic doctor. Also, a couple years before too, I'd also seen a sign on a road traveling to Mount Hood for this naturopathic school, and I checked into it, but had never really heard about it before that. So after completing prerequisite classes for medical school, I was accepted into NCNM in Portland, Oregon. For the next 5 years, in an effort to be able to see my 2 sons as much as possible, even though I had to work and attend medical school, to put food on the table, deliver newspapers every day at 2:30 a.m., 7 days a week, even falling asleep occasionally during classes. Even though Portland was where I wanted to live the rest of my life to live the rest of my life, because I'd moved there with my family in 1993 to teach, I realized that staying in Portland as one more ND among 400 others didn't make a whole lot of business sense, especially being a 48-year-old who had never before run a business. So my family, we decided to move back to my hometown of Sacramento, where California just received naturopathic licensure in 2003. And I have to looking back on it, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. But it was also difficult, as my wife and kids and I had to give up everything we knew. Our friends and job. My wife worked at Head Start, and so which she really enjoyed. So we had to begin all over again. But the last almost 12 years practicing naturopathic medicine has been just an absolutely amazing, incredible experience. I have a California license number 84, the newest ND that just received her license yesterday, that actually just began working here on Monday, is license number 868. So 780 NDs have been licensed since I was Cinco de Mayo of 2005. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of a naturopathic profession every day for the last 11 plus years. While it's had its challenges, both as a naturopathic doctor and as a business owner, has been incredibly satisfying. So the next part I wanted to discuss about the run. The run happened in 2009, and you can see some pictures here of the run. I actually started to plan it in 2009, and the story behind that, the run and how it began, was about when my son Isaiah was about 12 years of age. He saw a picture of Bill Clinton and I when Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. Saw the picture of Bill Clinton giving me this award, this Arkansas Traveler Award, and he said to me, "Dad, when I'm old enough and you're not too old, can we run across the United States together?" So he was feeling his, kind of competitive nature as a male 12 going through puberty. And so that's how the run developed. I said in 2009, if we're going to do this run, I better start planning it now because you're going to get busy with your life. My practice is picking up, so we better start planning. So I started planning in the fall of 2009. Now the run you can see there, that's a picture of myself in Indiana with Dr. Decker Weiss. Dr. Decker Weiss flew all the way out from Scottsdale, Arizona to do a talk around Purdue University in Lafayette, Indiana. And so we really appreciate him coming out. And he's one of the top cardiology people in the United States. And then the picture on the right is my son, Jeremiah is on the left, my youngest, and Isaiah is on the right. And then on the upper left, you see a picture of Isaiah on the left and Jeremiah, and then my nephew Jonas, who also ran with us across the United States. And then in the middle is Jonas there we were in Colorado, I believe. And on the right is a picture at the Art Museum in Philadelphia where we were enamored with the Rocky statue. And also down below on the left is we had just received some kind of an award, or it was an event at a yogurt shop. They were a part of our sponsors for the run. Jonas is holding that certificate. And then the woman on the right is Kristen, and she was a driver for us. She drove the RV across the United States. And the picture on the right is a few NDs and others in Utah at the Capitol. We had an event at the Capitol. Probably not a good idea to have an event at the Capitol on a Sunday. Not many people in Utah on a Sunday. But Todd Cameron on the left there and others. And it was really interesting about the run was that we were able to get so many NDs together. And it wasn't this particular picture I'm referring to, but we have another picture of where it was the first time that all the NDs in Utah had ever gotten together. And that happened in several states. So we felt the run was able to really bring NDs together besides raising awareness about naturopathic medicine overall. So the run lasted for 4 months and 16 weeks. And that took place in 2011, going from San Francisco to Washington, D.C., and then up to New York City, where we finished on 11 a.m. on Veterans Day, November 11, 2011, in New York City, and then we finished in Bridgeport, Connecticut at the school, the Bridgeport School, the Naturopathic School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Why naturopathic medicine? It's really the truth of human health and healing. It is a medical philosophy of healthy food and healthy attitude and gratitude, lifestyle and exercise, and really the whole connection to the earth, which, I mean, everything that I feel that I love and enjoy and represent, I feel like it's wrapped up in naturopathic medicine. Naturopathic medicine encourages patients to think thrive rather than to survive. This is something I really emphasize with patients, that Health is, again, it's not the mere absence of disease, but the presence of vitality, as the saying goes. So we really try to emphasize health, not just not having a disease. So there's a very clear difference. In other words, vitality, asking people, what is your why to get and stay healthy? And that oftentimes will find the motivation to do whatever they need to do to get healthy, whether it's to swim with your grandkids in the lakes of North America, or whether it's to pursue naturopathic school, whether it's to open up a shelter for women that are homeless. If you have a strong enough motivation, you can take the how. There's also a never a dull moment as an ND, because literally it's impossible to know everything. We need to know what MDs know as required by law as we go to school, take the classes that MDs take, but we also have to know a whole other layer of medicine. I have to say, just speaking honestly, that medical school is more difficult than I ever could have imagined. And of course, being in your 40s and delivering newspapers at 2:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, being tired also didn't help. But I made it, so I feel like anybody can. There's also an infinite number of possibilities of how to use the degree. A person could be a researcher, they could be a clinician, they could be a writer, an author, they could work for nutritional companies, they could do advocacy work. There's really no limit to the number of possibilities that people can do. My weekly routine, kind of how my week looks. I probably work more hours than the average ND does, and it just, I guess it's just part of the philosophy of being raised in 1956 as opposed to later. But 2 days a week, I run to and from work. I leave from work in the evening on Monday evening, run home. It's about 6.5 miles to my house in West Sacramento, and then the next morning I run back. So it seems to be an efficient use of my time. I used to live in Davis for 8 years and had to drive every day, and so I love it now, being able to commute by running and saving time, get about 24 to 26 miles a week, and just commuting back and forth. I see patients 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I actually see patients until 8 o'clock on Wednesday evening, so tonight I'll be here till 8 p.m. I don't see patients every single hour of the day, but I'm kind of here, and I'd like to probably, now that we have 2 other NDs working with me, I'll probably cut back some of the hours that I'm actually seeing patients. I also do a lot of the business and financial part, write email newsletters to patients once or twice a month, order nutritional supplements from a variety of different companies. Naturopathic leadership, state and national associations, as Dr. Anna has mentioned, I'm doing, it's extremely critical, important to me to be working with these associations and doing what I can to spread the good news, because of the fact, I believe that because I started at 48, and because it was so difficult becoming a naturopathic doctor from the perspective of delivering newspapers during that time, and also during that time kind of had a crisis as a best friend committed suicide during that medical school, and also my mom died in that 3rd year. So it wasn't easy, and so I think I have more passion than the average ND does. Not necessarily because I like naturopathic medicine more, but more so the passion that comes from overcoming obstacles. And then also I do a lot of social justice advocacy in the week, and then I probably do about 60 hours per week, whatever it takes. A lot of NDs work just 3 days a week, and so there's no rule that you have to work 5 days a week. I've always just trying to spread the message to people that you can do well financially in naturopathic medicine, and I think we need people that do well, and so you certainly can give a lot of it away to worthwhile organizations and helping people. But if naturopathic medicine, if a lot of us can't do well financially, then it makes it more difficult to talk about it being a profession, a doable profession. My vision for naturopathic medicine is that all 50 states are licensed by 2025. I am planning right now, it still hasn't been completely organized just in the beginning, but I would like to do 50-mile runs in the 31 remaining pre-licensed states. We call them pre-licensed instead of unlicensed states because we know they eventually will. But our goal is that by 2025, all 50 states will be licensed. And I believe it will make a huge difference to our profession. Right now, we have maybe 5 to 10% of the American people know who we are. I mean, it would be great to do a Gallup poll and find out, but it's hard to really know exactly how many people, what percent of American people have heard of us. But I believe that when 50 states are licensed or close to that, maybe in the 40s states, that there's going to be an incredible number of people that will find out and will be more like chiropractors and acupuncturists in terms of knowledge about our profession. So I would like to begin doing 50-mile runs from 50 miles out from the capital, 50 miles over a 3-day period of time, and then do a lobby with the state association of that state with legislators to seek licensure in that state. So that's kind of my dream, kind of goal coming up, and again using running for that. My advice for prospective students: work hard and smart. When you think about a profession, I'm thinking about after now. I think as I prepared the slideshow after, I thought maybe I should talk a little bit about more during school, but this is more after school when you get out. Work hard and smart. Think about location when opening a practice. Avoid cities and naturopathic colleges is my recommendation. In other words, don't open in Portland or Seattle or other places. Join your state and national associations. Ask not what your ND associations can do for you, but what you can do for the ND profession. As just paraphrasing what President Kennedy said back in 1961. NDs are outnumbered by MDs by 100 to 1. We have to stick together to survive and thrive. Be proud of being in the minority to leads the majority. So if you look at it, sometimes it's easy to come to work with a chip on your shoulder because of the fact that we're not accepted by mainstream medicine. But the fact is that we are the minority leading the majority. At one point, women could not vote, prior to 1920. So it was the minority that were leading the majority, and now it's pretty much it's self-evident that women should be voting. So so social justice and new and change takes place in a particular way. Advice for prospective students: always be ethical, a moral leader in the community. Practice from love, not fear. Be compassionate with others, with your patients. Be compassionate with fellow students. Heard a story recently about a person that was kind of maybe picked on a little bit because he was overweight and different things to one of the students, but we really that didn't really occur in my times. As we really stuck together during that time. But it's really important that we don't judge others, and that we not be critical of others when we're going to school and then after we get out of school. Love yourself, practice and balance. I don't, that's sometimes difficult for me to practice and balance. That's one of the things I preach, one of the things I work on. I work a lot of hours, but it doesn't really seem that hard to me. But I'm trying to, as I, I just turned 60 a few months ago, to try to pace myself like the marathon runner. Build relationships with everybody in the community, including other NDs. And now, Dr. Yanez.
Yes, thank you so very much, Dr. Gabi. So there were just a couple of questions that have come through. We had a few more slides up. So the one that we've got up here, and a few of the questions that have come through are, okay, how do I make this work? I've got a family, I've got young kids at home, and so I think so important for groups is to, because this is so individualized, you have your own personal plan. So up on the slides, we've got the academic plan, which is how do you make the prerequisites work? What will be the main pieces that you will have to figure out for the academic component. And so with the academic plan, I always recommend that students connect with our advisors. We've got advisors at all of the accredited naturopathic programs who are happy and able to help you create a tailored plan academically of what it will take for you to get those prerequisites. And so I would first say, go ahead and go to the ANMC website, request information, check out some of the schools, and then connect with some of the advisors. And just, you don't even have to be, totally committed to doing ND school, but check in with the advisors. See, what would this look like if I were to start this? And then, Dr. Godby, there were a bunch of questions that had come in about, okay, how did you swing? Now you said you you are a dynamo. You were delivering papers at 2:30 in the morning, and I know you said you do what it takes. I had classmates who were single parents. One of my very good classmates, who's still a friend, was a career changer, and Denise ended up. She worked nights. She did everything she could. She was a nurse and she worked shifts. I had another classmate of mine who was a flight attendant, and she would work weekends and take her books on her flights. And after she did her work on the airplane, she would sit in the back with her anatomy and physiology textbook and study
Wow,
for
that's
exams.
amazing.
And people do, you do what you have to do. I think every situation is different, and so that's why meeting with somebody who can help you figure out in your situation what is the best plan for you is probably the way that those types of questions can be worked out a bit. Dr. Godby, are there any things that you would add to that for parents who are saying, well, I've got kids at home, how do you swing it, how do you swing the financials, how do you cover rent and food and all of that when you're in ND school? Can you speak to that a bit?
Well, being the fact that my dad was a loan officer for a credit union here, I was always concerned about being financially solvent. And so when I went to check in on the cost of NCNM when I was living in Portland, it seemed like, well, I won't be able to afford that. I can't do that. And then I thought about it. Well, there's student loans. I mean, a lot of other people get student loans. Why would I not get a student loan? Why could I not do that? And so currently, just on the student loan thing, I'm still paying on my student loan and probably paying on it really the rest of my life. But it really is inconsequential compared to being able to be a naturopathic doctor and paying that back from the student loan perspective. So that's certainly available, and times have changed since then. So I'm not really sure about the situation then, what it is currently, but I don't think that's a huge deal for myself personally. It wasn't. Again, it may be different now. The other thing is that that the saying, and I don't want to throw out too many cliches, but really that where there's a will, there's a way. Really, I think is really true. The story about the flight attendant was absolutely amazing, and there's a lot of stories that when you look back and you go, wow, I can't believe I actually did that. But I think that it's really, like Dr. Yanez says, that to just talk to as many people as you can and really think about it, that there is a way. I just have to find that way. And so I think if you start off from the obstacle, if the why is strong enough, in other words, the reason to become an ND is strong enough, then you're going to find a way to be able to figure it out. And the schools are really good about helping you to work with you. NCNM in Portland, and that's what I know is good about working with people and helping to make it happen, rather than always. There's a lot of schools that are trying to kind of like weed you out and always trying to find why it won't work for you and this kind of thing. But that's not my experience in naturopathic school. So I definitely would like you to be less naive than I was when I attended school. I mean, I literally knew almost nothing before I started school. So the more that you know, the more empowered you can become. And it doesn't matter what job you work. Like I said, maybe newspapers isn't available to a lot of people. Certainly you can't be a single parent and go out and deliver newspapers at 2:30 in the morning, leave your kid alone. But if you could just make it through to have put food on the table and get potentially friends, family support for a while, it's definitely worthwhile. Because one thing I can guarantee you, the harder that it was to get through school, the more passion that you will have for the practice and the more successful that you will become when you get out.
So, Dr. Godby, there are a few questions that have come through. So one question that I will cover, and this is something that we get at the AANMC quite often, and I know it can be a little attractive for folks, especially for career changers, but we're asked every day about doing the ND degree online, and there is no other profession that you can go and become a doctor and do it all online. And so with the naturopathic programs and 4-hour accreditation, all of our programs are in residence. And so I know that that often is one of those barriers that I hear from people who are considering a career. Maybe they have young kids at home, maybe they have a home purchased somewhere. So it's a little bit trickier to uproot yourself and move to a place that does not have a naturopathic school.
Yeah.
But the online programs are not viable options. And I've had many students call me over the years upset. I've had patients call me. I thought this person was a real doctor, and they just printed out a certificate on their wall. So the online programs are not valid if you are trying to be a naturopathic physician and you are practicing as a doctor. They will not lead to licensure in any of the 19 states that regulate naturopathic medicine, or the 6 Canadian provinces that regulate naturopathic medicine. And so I can't say that strongly enough. It really, especially now, there has been a lot of fraud. There have been for-profit schools closing, students losing their life savings in some cases over this. And so I just can't stress enough that if you're really trying to be a naturopathic physician and focus on this as a career, online is not an option. And so that's just kind of where I'll leave the online question. I've had a couple folks ask about Canadian schools as well. And so in Canada, the schools that are recognized for naturopathic medicine are the Boucher Institute in Vancouver and CCNM, which is in Toronto. And both of those colleges are accredited. Their graduates can sit for the NCLEX licensing exam. And there's no stigma. It's the same degree. And so if you get a degree from any of the accredited schools, they are all valid to sit for the naturopathic licensing exam.
Well, could you speak to, maybe, I don't know if it's too early to speak about Dr. Beth Pimentel in Maryland, at that school, she's starting there?
Yeah, we're not able to speak yet to, there are schools in development. There are actually 2 in development right now, but we're, until those at least gain candidacy for accreditation, we usually don't speak to that at this point.
Okay.
But we do have, there is a school in Puerto Rico. They are a candidate for accreditation, but they are not an ANMC member school. And so, but I think, there are a few questions. I've got questions from some medical professionals here, and there are a lot of questions coming in, so I'm trying to keep up with them all. I have a question from a medical doctor, and I know I had classmates that were physicians, nurses, osteopaths, chiropractors. A number of our schools have programs where you can, as an already practiced physician, come in and apply for transfer credit. So Dr. Gabi, if you can go to the next slide, just real quick.
Okay.
So in the academic plan, because many career changers have had other careers before, you may have taken some of these classes. And so one of the things that I will always say to professionals who have another degree is get a transcript evaluation. The worst thing that they can say to you is no, but at a minimum, you're at least trying to get some credit for some of your life experiences, some of the things that you've done. So I would definitely say get a transcript evaluation from one of the advisors and see if that will work. If you've trained abroad, you would need a WES or translation service for your transcript, but they can still be translated and evaluated. As I said earlier, meeting with an ND advisor and creating that academic plan are really, really vital. So, gosh, we're getting a lot of questions.
I've also had MD's classmates they only had to do 2 years of medical school. Really it was kind of the 3rd and the 4th year because the basic sciences and things were already covered, so it took them about 2. I actually have one of my classmates that actually became an MD. ND became an MD. I'm not sure how long it took her, but that's certainly that all of the classes that you've already taken, if they were recent, that they would probably count for that you wouldn't have to take at the naturopathic school.
Dr. Gabi, can you speak a little bit to your involvement in the state and national associations and how you would maybe recommend someone going about getting involved? I know oftentimes we'll have people who are in pre-licensed states, and we always say, get connected with your local state association, get involved, get connected. What would be your advice about that?
Well, what I would do is virtually every state maybe a couple of exceptions, have a state association. So I would just kind of Google the Nebraska Association of Naturopathic Doctors, and probably something will come up. And whatever state you're in, and see if you can connect with those particular NDs. There should be at least a few. The kind of the catch-22 is that if you're in a pre-licensed state, is there's not that many NDs in the state except for like New York, and then it's harder for them to work for licensure because there's so few. But there are usually at least several NDs in the state that you can get a hold of and see if they could help you out, answer any questions. And I knew very few NDs when I was before I started school, and I would highly recommend that you get to know, or at least to try to understand what the situation in your state and how far it's going to be before it's licensed, and what where they are in terms of the licensure movement. Michigan, New York, and Illinois, we hope will be licensed, fairly soon. So it's pretty exciting, though, all that's going on. I think this is really a great time to be actually thinking about going to school, doing your prerequisites, going to school, because by the time that you would get out, I think there's going to be a lot more states that are licensed.
Thank you. So there are a couple questions here. Can you speak to, and I think this is one of those things, if you're a career changer, you're obviously really cognizant about this decision that you're making. And so can you talk to, like, what was that final push for you that said, okay, I've been thinking about this, I've obviously had social justice and health and wellness and all of these interests for your whole life, Dr. Godby. So what was that final straw, the proverbial straw that pushed you over the edge? And what, maybe some of the classmates that you've seen who are career changers, what is that aha moment that makes people go from, well, maybe, to yes, we're doing this?
Yeah. I think that first of all, again, you have to find the reason why that you would want to. I think the more that you understand about naturopathic medicine, if you're called, so to speak, to do that, you're going to find, if the why becomes strong enough and you could visualize yourself doing that, then you're going to be able to figure out how to overcome the obstacles. Because I think for a lot of people, and the people I've talked to recently, maybe even somebody on this call, is that how to overcome obstacles is the biggest issue. And so I think that it's, for me personally, I had left teaching. I didn't actually leave teaching to become a naturopathic doctor. I actually left teaching because I felt like that if I continued to speak out the way I did in class, I probably would be eventually not have a job anymore. And so I decided that that I needed to. So it was partially leaving something and going to something else. And I think it was really for me, it was the passion for teaching nutrition and exercise. And I see that, for me, since I was very young, about exercise and running and nutrition and all of those things, that they were so critical to how a person. I was in my 40s, and I could already see at that point of what a difference that my lifestyle had made compared to other 40-year-olds, some of my classmates. And now at 60s, even become more obvious. And so for me, that was like, I want to spread this good news to people. I don't want to see people have to suffer needlessly. That was always the thing about hunger in Africa, or wherever, whatever kind of suffering it was, to suffer needlessly, like not taking a vitamin D. I mean, literally 100% of the population in the United States, unless they're taking a dedicated vitamin D supplement, is highly deficient. And 100 different conditions caused by that. That causes me pain. So I think there was the pain of knowing what other people were going through, pain they were going through needlessly. That made me want to overcome the obstacles and to find a way to do it. And so I think that's for me is for me at this point is kind of a no-brainer profession. It's kind of like something that would be. If people really, really knew, if they really were passionate about this particular area, it would like, okay, I don't care what I have to do, I'm going to be a naturopathic doctor. And I realized a lot of people were even more difficult situations than I was. And if a person decides that they're not able to, that's fine, but really, really look at it. and really think about, I'm going to become if I become a naturopathic doctor, what do I need to do that? What are the obstacles that I need to overcome, and how can I overcome them? And I think that if you're really focused on that, some way, somehow, you'll find a way, even if it's very difficult in those years.
Dr. Godby, can you speak a little bit? I've seen folks in all stages of their lives open up naturopathic practices, or just decide to do the ND and have their practice the way that they want to be, with utilizing their own special talents and gifts. Can you speak maybe to a little bit to how you set up your practice, maybe what some of the benefits of having had some life experience under your belt were setting up the
Well,
practice?
it's huge because I have to tell you that when I was in my first year of medical school, I was at a disadvantage because I was in my 40s and I just didn't have the memory, the knowledge that my younger students, that the younger 20 people 20 years younger did. So medical school was probably more challenging. But once I got out of school, it actually became easier for me psychologically because a lot of people came out young, lost, didn't know what to do, and they kind of like they had no foundation. They wanted to stay in the town they were in, or they didn't really know where to go, what to do when they got out. And so for me, I was like, I have kids, I have a wife, I have responsibilities, I have to hit the ground running. So I just, moved to Sacramento. I didn't want to leave Portland because I love the city of Portland. It was just like, I used to answer the phone. This is Dennis in Portland, Oregon, and I just love the place. And so for me, it was hard to leave, but I left because I knew that I could have more chance and I could be more of a naturopathic missionary here in Sacramento. So I came here. There was one ND, and I just opened up an office, a small little office. I now call it Purgatory, and and so, but it served its purpose. My wife answered the phone. She used to, when she first answered the phone, and there were sometimes it'd just be her and a person in the office, and their phone wasn't ringing. There was nothing going on, nothing happening, no action. I felt like a totally losing situation. People don't like to go where there's not action. So she used to call herself on the phone and answer the phone and pretend like somebody was calling in. And, we had to do all kinds of different things in order to be able to bring excitement to the place. And so, but we had to work, and it was just, I used some credit cards to open up. I tried to, it's very interesting, but a lot of times people, they have the dreams are big and they spend a lot of money and they, put a lot of capital into it that maybe they don't have, and maybe they end up going out of business or doing really poorly because they go way overboard. And other people come in and they really do it. They have this like deprivation mentality and they think that they can't, maybe it's going to be hard to succeed. What if I lose money? And everything seems expensive when you're just starting off. But I think that if you, my first year, I worked at Sutter Health. I worked as a diabetes coach. I was paid not as a doctor, but as a layperson doing diabetes coaching. So I did that for a year, 32 hours a week. I would, and then every other Friday I would fly back to Portland to visit my family. They were still there. So it was a tough year, but it helped. It gave me some money at that time, we'd also sold our house in Portland, made a little bit of money there. But it was basically just credit cards and really trying to keep the rent low. And I never took out a business loan, and that's just kind of what I did. And I just did whatever it took. And sometimes it takes working another job while you're starting your practice. And at some point, you have to decide, when am I going to go for it, give up the other job, and just go for it, because you're going to have that loss of money, but you can't make more money really in your business until you've dedicated, until you're full time in that practice. And so for me, it was just really, it was all about hard work. I mean, that's really was the so to speak, the secret to my success was coming to Sacramento where there weren't many NDs, and also to just work really hard. And I think that if you work really hard and you try to work as smart as you can, that you can succeed.
Can you speak to specialization in naturopathic practice, and kind of how, when you're in school, how you find how you're going to use this, and maybe some advice for folks on that?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Tom, who is a well-known ND, and he was at NCNM in Portland, but he's now in Arizona. He was a academic dean and a longtime professor there. But he told me not to specialize in diabetes, and I did specialize. I didn't listen to him, and we started off as the Diabetes Naturopathic Center, and now we changed our name because it didn't work out very well. And so, because the people with diabetes didn't come, and so I probably should listen to his advice, but I guess I had to do it my way, and it didn't work out very well. But I mean, financially it was fine because we just switched now with the Sacramento Naturopathic Medical Center. But I have one of my classmates is actually is a specialty in Down syndrome after her child was born with Down syndrome, and now she's booked out 6 months in advance. And what I found is that people that specialize, it's something that you learn when you're in school. I think if you think when you're in school that you're going to do, especially like I did in diabetes, because my mom died from diabetes literally when I was in medical school, that I think that you could shortchange yourself. So what I would say is when you're in medical school, to begin thinking about a specialty, but try to learn as much as you can so that, because you don't really know exactly what you're going to do, and if you change your mind, then you've missed a lot of information along the way. So learn as much as you can, and then really decide on a passion that you have that's not really being met as much. Like you could just Google for like a disease, like PCOS or diabetes or something that's not very common, or maybe a disease that you've had or family members had, and Google that and go naturopathic doctor shingles or naturopathic doctor diabetes or whatever, and put down and see if there's a lot written on that. And if there's no naturopathic doctors writing on that, or you don't see anything and you see MDs and other people writing on it, then probably it's because that's not a field that's been very well explored. And it could be a good niche market. You want to have enough people that have that condition throughout the United States to make it worthwhile, but not so many that there's so many other people that are specializing in it as well. So typically people that specialize in the ND community, do really, really well, but it takes a lot of faith to give up your belief in yourself that this niche is really it's really going to work out, because because there's a temptation, because we're trained as primary care doctors, that we need to fall back on primary care. But if you say I specialize in 30 things, people know you're not really a specialist in 30 things. So it becomes kind of tricky.
Well, and I think also, just to add on to that, I always tell people, even if there are a bunch of folks doing what you're doing, if you love what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, you're good at what you're doing, folks are going to come to you.
Yeah,
A classmate of mine who was she was a career changer also. She was a health coach, and then through her own personal experience had cancer, was told that she was going to die. Basically given, wrap up your stuff, go see a pastor, and this is not looking good for you, kind of a diagnosis. And just totally changed her life around, changed her diet, went to see a naturopath herself, got healed, and then realized, all right, I have to do this. And so I wouldn't say to somebody, even though there are naturopathic oncologists, don't be a naturopathic oncologist, because there are already some. This woman has such a passion, and now she's got a major clinical trial for something that was originally illegal to study in the United States, and she got it, worked through Johns Hopkins University. And so, the only thing that I can say is that if you are passionate about something, if this is in your heart and burning inside of you, the obstacles are yours to jump over. The obstacles often are just in your head.
I totally agree. And you have to, I think a niche works best when it's a passion. And I was referring more to ones where if you're trying to think about it, if you're not really knowledgeable or you don't have any passion about a particular one, there was not a particular disease or condition you thought about, but if you're just looking from a business perspective, which ones to pursue. But from a different perspective, again, my passion was diabetes, still is. And so that's what I feel like that I could make the most difference in terms of lifestyle changes, which is what I became a naturopathic doctor for. It wasn't interventionary things, it was nutrition, it was actually, so that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I do. So even though I'm a primary care doctor, I still focus on what I do best, and that's counseling, because I was a teacher. And one thing that might be worth to say is the first couple of years of teaching, I mean, the first couple of years of being a doctor, if you had asked me, are you glad you became a naturopathic doctor? Or as soon as I, moved to Sacramento, I couldn't really say yes or no, to be completely honest. And was because, but when I decided that what I had to offer was unique to Sacramento or to the community. Not that it's never been said before, but something that I was passionate about, and that was that I had taught religious studies for 7 years. And what other naturopathic doctor in the United States has taught religious studies to high school students? You know, and so I felt like that I had a unique passion, and I was very inspired by that. I love working with adolescents now. I feel like I totally connect with them. I work with all ages, but I love working with adolescents. And I really feel like the connection. What I do best is more on the counseling area, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, about nutrition, and a lot of the things that you can change. On my wall it says, there's a sign that all of you have heard, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So we all know that, but the fact is that naturopathic doctors can help us. And what I try to inspire courage to change the things that we can change, which are many. There's very few things that we can't change. So we focus on those things we can change, and a lot of times it's our attitude. And so that's how I do my specialty, even though the other two NDs that work are much more physical than I am. They do fit more physical exams. They do women's gyne exams. They do a lot more hands-on stuff, but I'm not really the hands-on guy because I like to communicate people through talking and through counseling as opposed to changing up 5 minutes you're doing this, 5 minutes you're doing that, 5 minutes you're doing this. So that's just what I do well, and everyone does it in a different way.
Can you speak a little bit, and I know California is licensed, and there's been some changes with insurance coverage, but can you speak? I know that you have experience in Oregon. A couple folks have asked about reimbursement and different practice models. I know numbers of people have insurance-based practice models. Other folks will have cash-based practice models or concierge-based practice models. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. Well, one of the things that patients will call us, they do accept insurance. And what we say immediately back to them is that it's not about us accepting insurance, it's about whether insurance companies accept us. So in Oregon, Washington, the states, insurance companies are much more likely, sometimes required by law, to do insurance. We have here cash-based practice. And what we do is that if a person has insurance, if they request a super bill, which then we write down, the money was spent, the codes, and all of those things, and the staff will fill out a super bill, and they will give it to the patient, and they can submit it for possible reimbursement. Sometimes people get it reimbursed, sometimes they don't, but they pay us first here. So we don't wait to get paid 3 months later, 6 months later from insurance companies. They pay us first, and then if they get reimbursed, they get reimbursed. That's kind of the way our model is. When NDs work with MDs, sometimes some of their services will be supported because of working with an MD. So there's just a lot of different models, but mostly ours is cash-based. And the laws, we believe in California that when NDs have the right to prescribe pharmaceuticals more than just the hormones that we're able to now, that will have the insurance companies will kind of see us as kind of, so to speak, more real doctors that can prescribe pharmaceuticals. And then there's much more chance that insurance companies will pick up some of the tab. But that lost in legislation last year, and we made it to the final step and then lost in the final step, so we're going to probably be reintroducing that at some point.
Okay. All right. So I think we have time probably for just about one last question. Can you speak maybe to, and I know that this wasn't your experience specifically, but we have a lot of folks in pre-licensed states who are interested in doing this, and there may not be so many doctors locally for them. What would you say, and I know that you sit on the AANP's board as well as the Board for Diversity, what would you say as some advice for folks like in Florida and Ohio and Georgia and some places that are not yet recognized for naturopathic doctors, how to connect with folks?
Yeah. What I do know is that, as I mentioned before, that many states are going to be licensed, and that's why we call them pre-licensed. It's just a matter of when. And again, if you go to school, if you start school in 2 years from now, and it takes 4 years to get through, that's 6 years from now. A lot more states are going to be licensed by then. And so, I mean, our goal, and it doesn't mean we're going to accomplish it, but I believe it's pretty realistic if we all work together to have all the states licensed by 2020, by 2025. And so, what I would just do is, again, to try to connect with any ND anywhere and talk to some NDs in pre-licensed states that not in licensed states like California, if that could be your particular situation. But I highly doubt that most states, there may be a few exceptions, but I highly doubt that there will be 19 states by the time you graduate that will be licensed. I believe it'll be highly believe that it'll be significantly higher than amount. And so I would really think about the state, to really look into that state, find out other MDs that are there. But even MDs that are working in pre-licensed states, even though they don't have as much, they don't have as many rights, so to speak, in that particular state, they still are, like in New York and other places, Florida, maybe not so much Florida, but other states can be successful financially. There's a lot of NDs that work there. It's amazing. There's a Dr. Gio Espinosa that works in New York City that actually works for New York University as a professor and is even though they're not licensed. So there's a lot that can happen in pre-licensed states, even if they're not licensed yet. Like Illinois School of Naturopathic Medicine, they're not licensed yet either, and yet there's practicing NDs, a lot of practicing NDs in Illinois. So it's not like a foregone conclusion and you can't be successful in pre-licensed states.
Okay. And so I know we're just about at the end of the hour, and I see a few questions that are still on. I will stay on to answer some questions at the end of this. I can stay on for another 10, 15 minutes or so. So I'm happy to respond to some questions. Dr. Godby, can you advance to the final slide, the events slide?
Sure.
So there's Dr. Godby. I know some folks have asked to get in touch with you. So his contact information is on our slides. Will also be available on our website shortly after this. We'll be working to get it up on the website underneath our video archives. And it will also be on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned in just a few minutes and give us a little time to get it up there. So you'll see Dr. Godby at sacnd.com is his email address. And if you can go to the next slide. So the upcoming events next month, we've got Intro to Naturopathic 101, featuring yours truly. So I'll be talking about just some of the basics about naturopathic medicine and all the wonderful things that you learn in ND school and how NDs approach care. And then we will have our virtual fair on March 9th, and that is a chance for you to sit in your house and open up your computer or open up your tablet and communicate with admissions advisors from all 7 schools. So I know some of you have had some questions about admissions. We've had some foreign grads talking about, okay, I'm an India licensed doctor, or I'm an Australia licensed naturopath, or I'm an NZ or a DO. I've had a few questions today from various different degree holding folks. And so this will be an opportunity for you to meet with admissions counselors, staff, students, advisors from all of the ND colleges, all from the comfort of your home or wherever you want to open up your computer and talk to them. So the virtual fair is an awesome way. I would definitely say register for that today if you have any admissions type questions. That is a really great opportunity. It's kind of like a one-stop shop to get all your questions. And so with that, we are going to conclude today's webinar. Dr. Godby's got patients until 8 o'clock tonight, so you've got a long day today, sir, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time today. I know that your story has been incredibly inspirational for a lot of folks, and I really, truly, on behalf of all of the ANMC, thank you for taking your time today to speak with us.
Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and thanks for all the great questions. I really, really enjoyed preparing this and doing this, and we'll be in touch for future references, okay?
Thank you so much, sir. I'll see you later, and folks who are still on, I will stay on for some questions for the next few minutes. If you still have them, stay on if your question has not yet been answered. And if you do have other questions, please feel free to contact us, the AANMC, at info@aanmc.org. That's info at aanmc.org, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you and have a wonderful day.